Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're going to the moon again. Well, I'm not going to the moon again, ever, but our space program is. We're going back to the moon. You may be able to tell that I'm old enough to remember the first time we did this. Anyway, how do any of us remember the moon landings? Photography. It's all about photography. Without pictures, it didn't happen, right? But have you ever thought about whether or not you would have the right stuff to do great photography on the moon? Could you be this guy? Let's talk about lunar photography. Okay, so photography on the moon. Well, how hard could it be, right? I mean, these astronaut guys did it and they got some great images and they weren't photographers. They had an awful lot of help and an awful lot of training. We're going to talk about where lunar photography started and where it's going. First, they did have TV for the first moon landing. It was black and white. It was both super crude and super complicated. I'm not going to talk about the video part of their photography in this video, but if you're interested in it, I'm going to throw a link to a video that talks about it. For this video, I'm going to stick to talking about their still photography. Needless to say, in 1969, most of the still images captured on the moon were captured on film using this while wearing this. Now, let's take a second and think about all the forums and about cameras and camera usability and control layouts, and just take a moment to think about what these guys went through. Usability, oh yeah, usability, not so much. These guys couldn't even touch their camera. They couldn't look through a viewfinder. Well, there wasn't one. They had to aim their cameras with their chest. You ever tried that? Yeah, so right there's problem number one. Just framing an image to get it whatever you want in the frame. And now they had some misses you probably haven't seen. Why would NASA publish the misses? But overall, these guys did pretty darn good. Let me tell you, I don't know if I could do as good as they did. But let's talk about the pressure these guys are under, right? You're the first men on the moon. The entire world is waiting to see what the moon looks like, and you have a camera you can't touch and can't aim. No pressure whatsoever. In fact, on Apollo 12, astronaut Alan Bean accidentally aimed one of the video cameras into the sun and fried the Vidicon tube, and that camera was dead. You think wedding photographers have pressure? These guys were just in a total meat grinder. They had to perform, and they did. Oh, that's just the beginning. There's this one big thing they don't have on the moon. It's called air. Now, other than the obvious problem of not breathing it, think about what this does to photography. Air and atmosphere is everything in terms of creating photographs that you would deem as realistic. Without air, a mountain 2 kilometers away would be tack sharp and disorienting, unearthly. And how do you, as a photographer, convey that scene to someone who has never seen it before? It is no wonder there are so many people who are claiming that the photography on the moon is fake. It's because it's an alien world and you don't have a frame of reference for it. There's no air. Speaking of lack of air, let's talk about contrast. Without atmosphere, you have never seen contrast such as that exists on the moon. The moon's surface is a light, bright dirt or sand or powder. It's basically a mirror, and space is black. You have never had to photograph anything with that level of contrast in your life. And these guys, these group of non-photographers, landed on the moon and had to deal with this problem. They had a lot of technical help and were told, of course, how to train for this. But let me tell you, they had to perform. Earth was waiting. There was no second chance. Could you do that? Focus, of course, was manual. Once again, since they couldn't look through the camera, they had to guesstimate the distance to whatever they were shooting and set the focus, or use some equipment and materials to make a good estimate of distance. But it was just an estimate. There was no autofocus. The astronaut was the autofocus. Okay, now we touch on exposure, which I think was probably the most difficult challenge going into this of the entire team, the technicians and the astronauts. You had to know what exposure you were going to shoot at on the moon. You didn't see the astronauts holding up a light meter. I sure didn't. They knew, and they had a plan of what exposure they were going to have based on their film, based on, I'm sure, many, many studies and previous things done. But the uncertainty. They had a plan. It was the first time they were doing it. There's a guy on the moon with a camera and a roll of film inside of it. It had never been done before. Hey, guess what? You're gonna have to wait a week to 10 days to even know if you've got the image. Can you imagine? You're the first guy. The world is waiting, and you don't even know if you have good images. We owe a debt of gratitude. Humanity owes a debt of gratitude to the technicians and teams that developed the systems and methods of doing the photography for that first moon landing. Can you imagine if it would not have worked? The billions of dollars that were spent to get those guys down for the first landing, and there was no images, it would be as if we never went at all. Wow, so that's where it started. Do you think you would have had the right stuff to be the first photographer on the moon? So what can we expect this time around? Honestly, I think we are going to see some of the most jaw-droppingly beautiful, dramatic photography that we have never been able to imagine. First, cameras are going to be everywhere. Cameras are tiny now. Each astronaut will probably have multiple cameras on them, in their helmets, on their arms, carrying cameras, in the rover, everywhere. Probably in places that they don't want to have them. And all of these cameras today are going to have autofocus and auto exposure and auto white balance. Man, today it's point and shoot because we know what environment we're going into, and our camera technology is just 50 years ahead, but more like 1,000 years ahead in terms of what they can do. So I'm kind of still speculating here because there's two things we don't even have for the next landings yet. One, a lander, and two, spacesuits. It's true, but it's on the calendar for a landing in 2025 as I'm making this video. You know, when you talk about this technology, we were talking about earlier aiming the cameras. It would be trivial today to have a heads-up display projected inside an astronaut's visor. Man, the technology ideas of photography on the moon are so exciting. Well, that's what I think. What do you think? Man, let's kick this around in the comments. I am stoked to be going back to the moon, and I really appreciate you watching this video. Until the next video, cheers.